Let me ask you something, and I really do want you to consider this. What makes you get out of bed in the morning? Now, most people, when confronted with this question, fumble around for something respectable to say. They mention their career, their children, their mortgage, or some vague notion of making a difference. But notice something peculiar. The very fact that you have to search for an answer suggests you've lost touch with something that should be as obvious as breathing. Nobody asks what motivates you to breathe. You just breathe. And therein lies the entire problem with the way we think about motivation. We have been taught, by schools, by churches, by the whole apparatus of Western civilization, that motivation is something you must generate, like electricity, that it is a fuel you pour into the engine of yourself so that the machine keeps running. And when the fuel runs out, as it inevitably does, you are told to find more of it. Read an inspiring book, set goals, visualize success, try harder. But this is precisely the approach that turns living into a chore. And it is, I think, the root of why so many people feel an inexplicable flatness about the whole affair of being alive, as though they were watching a movie they'd already seen, or attending a party to which they hadn't really been invited. Think about it. When you're trying to pump yourself up to do something, there's already a split happening. There's the you who needs motivating, and the you who's supposed to do the motivating. Which one is the real you? Now, the scientists have discovered something rather remarkable about this business, and it lines up with what the Buddhists have been saying for about 25 centuries. Neuroscientists, particularly Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan, have found that the brain's dopamine system, that great highway of neurons, does not actually produce pleasure. It produces wanting. This is an extraordinary distinction. Dopamine is the chemistry of craving, of reaching, of "I've got to have that." It is not the chemistry of enjoyment. In Berridge's experiments, rats with virtually all their dopamine destroyed still enjoyed the taste of sugar. Their little faces lit up with satisfaction, but they would not lift a paw to seek it out. Conversely, rats flooded with dopamine became frantic seekers who wanted everything but enjoyed nothing more than before. Do you see the joke? The brain has a system dedicated entirely to wanting things it may not even enjoy getting. The engine of motivation, neurologically speaking, is a thirst that drinking does not quench. You could have the most exquisitely activated dopamine circuits in the world and still feel empty upon arrival, because the system that drove you there has nothing to do with the system that lets you savor where you are. The Buddha had a word for this, taṇhā, literally thirst. It is the diagnosis of why we suffer. Not because life is painful, but because we are in the grip of a craving that, by its very nature, cannot be satisfied. Taṇhā is not ordinary desire. It is that particular quality of wanting in which the wanting itself has become the point. Like a dog chasing its own tail with absolute conviction that this time, it will catch it. The Buddha identified 3 flavors of this thirst. First, craving for sensory pleasure, more of everything, better of everything. Second, craving to become something, a success, a somebody, an enlightened person. And third, most subtle of all, craving for non-existence, the desire to escape, to check out, to not have to deal with any of it. And here we find something fascinating. The person burning with ambition and the person lying on the couch unable to move are both caught in taṇhā. One is addicted to becoming, the other is addicted to non-becoming. They are opposite ends of the same stick. So the real question is not, how do I get motivated? That's like asking, how do I make myself want to breathe? The real question is, what is blocking the motivation that is already there? Because you see, a living organism is, by definition, a motivated organism. Life is motivation. A tree doesn't need to read 7 Habits of Highly Effective Trees. It just grows. The fish swims. The bird flies. And you are also nature, doing what nature does. But somewhere along the way, you got the idea that you are in nature rather than of nature. That you are a passenger in this body rather than the whole process itself. And when you separate yourself like that, when you create this imaginary gap between the you who must be motivated and the life that wants to be lived, you create the very problem you're trying to solve. In the next video, we're going to explore what happens when you build your entire motivational structure around defending something that doesn't exist. The ego trap. And why the harder you try to be somebody, the more exhausted you become.